let's just jump right into this. Andrew Tate.
Long time.
I know, it's been a very long time.
Very long.
You were very much in the UK circuit.
Yeah.
Now it seems like your celebrity is kind of really hitting the US market. They're kind of finding you for the first time, digging up a bunch of old clips, and there's a lot of pressure now on conservatives to say something really awful about you.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. So the Andrew Tate, Candace Owens interview, my gosh, if you guys are on Twitter, like everybody has something to say. And like, okay, the interview is 3 hours and 5 minutes. I have not finished the interview yet, but I am working on it and taking notes so I can give you my full review on the interview. But she is right when she says that conservatives feel like they have something to say. And boy, have they been saying a lot. They have. So let's go look. We're going to look at a little bit of this clip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, when I'm done the interview, I'm going to break it down into 3 parts and give a full review in 3 parts. Because when I first heard of Andrew Tate, and I heard some of the clips, I had seen some of his clips and some of the things that he was saying, I just thought he was too hype. I don't like a man that feels like he needs to talk about himself all the time and how he gets hoes and, you know, and he's pimping hoes and all. Like, I don't like that, right? But at the same time, I didn't think that he should have been canceled or called a misogynist and all. You know, I don't do labels. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the beginning of this interview. But before we do, guys, if you could please hit the like button for me, help push me back out into that algorithm. I thank you guys for watching. I thank you for all that you do. And if you have not subscribed yet to this channel, please hit subscribe on this channel. We make the inconvenient truth great again, and we talk about everything.
There seems to be a pressure on everybody on all sides to say something awful about me. I kind of feel like I've been placed in a position where there's always someone attacking me new each day. But I guess I was built for it because it doesn't bother me like it should, perhaps.
You seem to be doing pretty well given the circumstances.
I know the truth of my heart, and I know that what I say is the truth, and I understand very well the internet and how it works. And I also think I'm perspicacious enough to understand there's certainly a degree of weaponized virtue and perhaps a degree of jealousy and perhaps a few other things that are involved in all of these attacks. I don't believe that people who sit and attack somebody for their past, especially something from so long ago, are genuinely virtuous. I don't think it's about virtue. I think it's about, well, I can get some clicks this way, or I can get some views that way, or he did the biggest interview ever, or whatever it is. There's certainly some other motivations.
He's right, because, you know, I mean, let's keep it real. Also, I'm going to say Candace does gush over him. I'm keeping it real. She's a little gushy, you know, but I think that's her homie. So maybe that's why. I don't know, but I will keep it real. She is a little, it feels like a softball interview. I did see somebody say somewhere that it's a softball interview. I think she asked him a lot of good questions, but I can understand the softball part about it.
I don't want to say water off a duck's back. I don't want to come across as arrogant. However, I do believe that since the dawn of human time, every single king with any kind of empire was constantly at war. And I think if you're going to become one of the most famous people on the internet, you're going to be at war, and you'd be a fool to become massively influential and then cry about the fact that you end up in constant battles. It doesn't matter if you're Napoleon or Charlemagne or Genghis Khan. There's always someone prodding the edges of your empire, trying to find weakness, see what a little bit of land they can take. And I think it's always been the same. And right now, I guess you could say, to a degree, I certainly have an empire and I'm massively influential. And there's a degree of, I wouldn't say jealousy, but there's certainly some ambitious people who are trying to damage it. I think that's what it is.
So I did see a mashup clip that we're not going to show because I thought it was unfair. I will say that. Yeah. Only because there was no context provided to the clips. It was just an extract of something that you said that 10 years ago. Some of them were literally 10 years ago. Yep. Didn't know what year it was from, didn't know who you were talking to, didn't know what context it was. And I've been victimized online by something like that before, where somebody takes something abstract and says, well, this is what must be what she means, until they're provided the full context of the clip. Yep. And I also take exception to, I think, digging back 10 years. I don't know who could survive that litmus test. I'm 34 years old today. Yeah. 10 years ago, today I speak to my audience. I talk about, they call me puritanical. I talk about, not drinking. Yeah. I think the biggest change has been becoming a mother. And it would really be unfair if we went and found Candace at 24 years old, liberal, dancing at One Oak, and said, well, look at these clips of Candace Owens. Fortunately, I had no cameras in my face 10 years ago. Yep. You somehow did.
So for Candace, this is the part that kind of irritates people when what she just brought up. That is a very realistic thing that she said. You guys, if y'all saw me from 10 years ago, man, I don't even, I mean, it's not that bad. Like I wasn't a stripper or anything, but my views have definitely changed from 10 years ago. They've changed from 3 years ago. I mean, I think many of our views have certainly changed from 2020. I think a lot of people had a great awakening around that year. But there's a part of Candace that she never brings up. And I've seen a comment about that, of how she used to dox people when she was online as a liberal, and she used to dox people constantly and do certain things that were very unbecoming and disingenuous with her platform that she did have when she was on the left. She never brings it up. I guess she wants to forget it, but people think that she should bring it up and address it. And she should, because she is a public figure. She should bring it up and address it the same way this guy has to address a lot of things. I mean, that's what happens when you're a public figure. But she can't address it because she's done this still, even as a conservative. I did make that video about Nicole Arbor, what she did with her, the whole Steven Crowder thing. So she's not going to address that.
So I think it's a bit unfair. I also think that some of the critique that is coming your way is coming from people who are well-intentioned, like they actually don't perceive maybe perhaps, okay, this is 10 years ago, what the context is, has he changed since? So I will ask the question, and we are going to get into some of those clips. You said you're an open book. Yeah. How have you transformed? And I've seen changes just, I think, in the last 5 years. Yep. Who are you today? How have you transformed?
That's a very good question. It's also very important when you talk about Candace from 10 years ago. The idea that you did something 10 years ago, which you would no longer agree with, is one thing. But the second thing, to come along to the conclusion that you now have no value to add to the world would be massively unfair, right? Everybody changes, and that's fine. I'm not the kind of person who's going to sit and apologize for his past. I believe all's well that ends well. I believe we're humans and we grow and we learn. I'd be a fool and I'd be disingenuous to sit here and pretend I was sorry for something I did in the past. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be very honest to everyone at home. I've talked at length for a very long time about my history and the fact I used to run a webcam business, and I don't feel guilty for that. I know that's maybe what they want from me. I don't feel sorry for that. I've never hurt anybody. It has nothing to do with my current criminal case. Everybody who worked for me was very positive. In fact, my #1 supporter is currently online, and my best lifelong friends and some of the letters I got in jail were from people who worked for me at that time. And I had a business, and I'm not going to sit here and try and pretend that I feel guilty or I feel sorry for that. I'm from a low-income background. I did what I had to do to survive. And truthfully, all in all, being very honest, I don't think what I did was really that bad. And I want to say,
so that's the part that pisses people off, is that he's not saying sorry for what he did in the past. I respect it, because I don't want you to tell me something that you don't believe to be true. I also respect the fact that Andrew Tate is not a Christian. So I don't expect him yet to understand. I say yet because I don't know, man. I think that he would have had a chance to be a good Christian. He would have been a great tool for God. Absolutely. His past is disgusting, right? With some of the things, I don't know that man. Some of the things that he's done has been disgusting, but he could have been a person who could show what God's mercy, how it can change you. And as a Christian, you do understand saying sorry. It's not just saying sorry because you're sorry. You're asking God for forgiveness, and you repent and do better. And God does forgive you. The grace of God is amazing, but the man is not Christian. So he's telling you how he feels. So other than that, if you're not sorry, you're not sorry. I don't expect you to say that if that's not how you feel.
That, and I know people are going to lose their minds for it, but I didn't sell drugs. I didn't kill anybody. I mean, what did I do? I found a gap in the market, and I helped some people organize some accounts on an internet website. That's what I did. And they're going to try and criticize me and crucify me for the next 100 years because of it, because of clips that were made 10 years ago. I think it's disingenuous, and I don't think anyone actually really cares about the virtue of it, because nobody who was involved in my life back then is complaining about anything. I think it's just an attack on me. And certainly we learn and we grow and we change. But it's very interesting how hypocritical the idea of looking at somebody's life over such a long period actually is. I mean, we can look at Donald Trump, right? Who I'm a fan of. I guess I know you've had your ups and downs with him, but in the conservative sphere, he's pretty well respected. Donald Trump used to own the Miss Universe pageant. Are we going to criticize him Are we going to crucify him? What about the girls he had in Miss Universe who decided to go on and do Playboy magazine? Is he a bad person now? Why? That's not Christian.
I mean, and this is not, it's not the same thing, but okay. It's not, but I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying.
Christian values, right? People are messy and life is messy and nothing is completely clean. And this idea that you're going to find somebody and 10 or 11 years ago, they did something which might even be slightly distasteful, not even illegal, and you're going to crucify him forever. I just don't believe that's genuine virtue. I think it's just an attack.
And to be clear, his lawsuit is not about that webcam business that he did 10 years ago. And you won't find anybody from 10 or whatever, 5 years ago, I don't know. But you won't find anybody online complaining from the webcam business thing. You don't. I have not seen it. So I think that he is right about that part.
He's never said he was conservative. Why are we, he is not identifying as a Christian. So why are we suddenly using that as whether or not a Christian, a conservative can put him on a platform and talk about something that is relevant? And something that is relevant is whether or not you are being wrongly or unfairly persecuted by a government.
Yeah.
So you say you don't have any guilt for it.
I'm not sorry. I don't operate in that frame. I don't think it's an intelligent way for a man to go through life to say, I'm sorry. At a younger age, I did the best I could possibly do. And I did the best I believed at the time. And you grow from it and you learn. And perhaps there's times in your life where you look back and think, well, maybe I would have done this differently, because hindsight's always 20/20. But every rapper sold drugs. Like, you get to a certain stage in your career where you no longer sell drugs and you don't do it anymore. But that's part of the life journey, and life's messy. And I'm not going to sit here and apologize to any conservative who wants to sit me down and try and give me some moral high ground garbage. I'm not going to listen to it. I had a very rough upbringing, a very tough life, and it could have been so much worse in so many ways. I've done nothing illegal. I've never hurt anybody. Everybody who was involved in my life back then are massive supporters of me. And I think it's very hypocritical for someone to sit, look at a situation they were not involved in and don't understand, look at old clips taken out of context, and then tell me and a whole bunch of people who were in my life who were all perfectly happy that something bad happened and something wrong happened. I don't think that's genuine.
All right. So we'll stop there. It's not for me to judge. But here's the bigger thing. I feel like I have to keep on defending people who I normally would not defend. Like I told you, I've seen those videos. He sounds like a hype guy. And I'm talking about the videos from like 3 years ago when he's hype about being, or maybe 2 years ago when he's talking about pimping hose degrees and all that stuff. Like, he was too hype. So I was like, this guy's hype. But everybody kept on trying to get him off the internet. And it wasn't because of that. It was because young men were also listening to his content when he was telling them, get up, go work out, get off the television, go work out, be a man. You're not a girl, all that kind of stuff. And it actually, he got a following. He got a following of young adolescents in the age where they don't know themselves. They don't know themselves and don't understand themselves. He got them to see that it's okay to be a boy, or whatever else goes with that. Why was he dangerous? We know when the mainstream media calls you dangerous, it is not because you really are trying to hurt kids. It's because you're trying to tell kids whatever other message it is. Okay. And for him, I'm not saying it's a message of Jesus Christ as their savior. No, but it's a message at least of, take care of yourself. Because had he been saying anything else like, oh, you can pick whatever gender you want to be. If you want to be a fox, you're a fox, all of that. We wouldn't even have known anything about Andrew Tate. Be clear. Andrew Tate and his brother were put on lockdown, house arrest for 6 months. All right. No, they were detained, for 6 months. 6 months. And there was no evidence to do that to them, right? There was no evidence there. That was the point. They said, we're going to detain them to find evidence. Now, this is Romania, so I guess it's what they do there, but that is unheard of. Like, we think you did something. We're looking for the evidence that you did it, so we're just going to put you away because we think you did something. And I'm still not even clear as to what the something is that they thought they did. But they went all through that man's house, all through their mansions, whatever. And they obviously never found anything because they still have not really brought up charges on him, if I'm not mistaken. We'll find out. But I don't think they did bring up charges on him. Now, the other part is with conservatives, though, the whole thing about, and I call myself for the branding a conservative, right? But my first label is worshiper of God, right? So let's not conflate the two. But so if I had to only pick one label, that comes first, worshiper of God. It can't be all the time, though. Well, why are you talking to him? He's morally disgusting. Like, yo, chill out. Like, Jesus talked to everybody, yes. And I know that is the answer that trans people give. Guess what? To be quite honest, though, although I don't believe in using a trans person for the trans movement of not telling children that they can be, that they could go through child mutilation, because it absolutely overrides the situation. So I would not do that. But don't think that I wouldn't interview a trans person and ask them, well, how'd you get here? What's going on? What happened to you? Right? So you can talk to anybody. You just don't pick up their habits. You just don't pick up their habits. And that's the fact. Yes, Jesus did talk to everybody. But the part where the left messes it up is that, oh, and then he wants us to stay this way. No. If you're a Christian, what you understand is that you can talk to whoever, but then you tell them about the goodness of God, right? You're not supposed to pick up their culture. And for real, the church has been the need to the culture instead of being the culture or fighting the degeneracy in the culture. But that is a whole nother podcast. So I wanted to give you guys this introductory video. So guys, keep it locked right here. I'll see you at the next video. Bye.